Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. What you're doing today is very important, so thank you so much for taking the time to hear this bill. I would especially like to thank Speaker Corcoran. I met with him personally about a year ago, discussed this issue. He said he wanted more data and more numbers. My team and I, at my news station, compiled about 30 pages and sent it to him, and he saw it and read it, and he has supported this. So a big thank you to Speaker Corcoran for getting behind this bill. Now, my name is Matt Austin. I'm actually a news anchor in Central Florida. I know you guys and us don't always have the greatest of conversations, but I'm now here in front of you today with a little bit of a sickening feeling. Journalists aren't supposed to push for bills. I'm not supposed to be here in front of you, but today I am not in front of you as a journalist. Today, I am here as a dad. Okay, so I got kind of pushed into this whole thing. In September of 2016, this crisis wound up literally in my back seat. It was after work. It was midnight. I was driving home. I was stopped at a stoplight, and I just remember hearing this deafening noise, and then I woke up. I was rolling through the intersection. I was foggy, and I felt this drip down the back of my head, and when I touched it and looked, I was covered in blood. One of the most vivid, strange feelings I had, people on the sidewalk were screaming as I pulled off to the side of the road. I remember knowing that I had to call 911, and when I grabbed my phone to do it, I could not figure out how to unlock it. And when I did, then I couldn't figure out which app to push to call. I've never felt such confusion in all my life. So the crash gave me a severe concussion and gashes to the back of my head that required 10 staples. Now, I don't know if you've ever had a severe concussion before, but basically you get to sit in a dark room for 7 to 10 days, no TV, no phone, no loud anything, and it's pretty miserable. And then you also have the worry that your senses aren't going to fully come back to you. Now, the driver in my case admitted to police that he was texting, right? So he didn't even hit the brakes, and when he hit my car, the trunk looked like a pancake, and he almost made it to the cage of my back seat, which is where my 3 daughters are usually sitting. It came as quite a shock to me weeks later when I looked at the police report and found there was no mention of texting in that report. This is when I began to discover how far behind the curve our state is when it comes to texting and driving legislation. 46 states have primary enforcement, and we do not. As you know, all legitimate data shows primary enforcement saves lives. Now, my TV station and I set out to try to get results and push for this legislation when we found out how far behind we were, and we soon started talking to other people who were hurt by distracted driving. And very quickly, this push became less about me and my babies and more about others. You see, my babies were not in the car. They were not in front of a texting driver. But I have met people whose babies were in front of texting drivers, like Demetrius Braca, who has testified in many of these committees. I profiled a school crossing guard who was petrified that one day she would see one of her babies that she lets cross the street get hit by one of the dozens of texting drivers she sees every day out on the roads. I met a daughter whose 90-year-old mom was killed because a young man driving an F-250 dropped his phone on the floor and felt the need to reach down and grab it on the highway. It's about time the Florida legislature takes this crisis seriously. Give police officers the ability to do their job and give distracted drivers a good reason to put their phones down. Now, I've heard lawmakers argue that this law may not affect the problem. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to pay $120 in court costs and tickets to send one text message. I think that is a point that we can prove here. Right now, police officers can pull you over for speeding, seatbelt violations, out-of-date registration, but they cannot pull you over for staring at your phone instead of the road. What message is that sending to children who are sitting in the back seat watching their parents text and drive without consequence? You have the opportunity to do something very special and rare in this building today. You have a well-written, bipartisan bill with a bunch of support, and it protects Floridians from all angles. And what's very special about this bill, nobody's going to take you to dinner, nobody's going to give you flowers, but you can sleep very well knowing that you protected the people who voted for you if you put it through. So thank you.